The night sky was full of silence. For thousands of years, the stars had burned, but no voice had come from them. Humanity had always wondered if someone out there was trying to speak, but the universe remained quiet. Then one day, the silence broke. A signal came. It was not loud, not clear, but like a whisper carried across an endless ocean. The signal was first caught by a small deep space observatory in the desert. The machines were not built for such things. They were watching galaxies, black holes, and dying suns. But this signal was different. It was not natural. It repeated in patterns, soft and strange, like a voice lost in static. The scientists who heard it first could not sleep. Something inside the signal was calling to them. No one else noticed. The larger stations dismissed it as noise. The powerful nations ignored it. But the small observatory kept listening. Night after night, the signal grew clearer. And then, after weeks, it began to sound like words. At first, the words were broken, but the computers translated enough. The message was simple: we are here. Do not let them hear you. Do not answer. Just listen. The scientists froze when they saw those lines on the screen. Someone, something, was speaking from the stars. And that something was warning humanity to stay silent. But who was them? And why were humans told to keep quiet? The team argued for hours. Some said it was a prank. Some said it was a trap. But the message kept coming, repeating night after night, always ending with the same chilling command: do not answer. One man, Dr. Keller, stared at the screen longer than the rest. He had spent his life searching for proof that humanity was not alone. Now, when the proof had come, it was not joy he felt, it was fear. The voice in the signal was not offering friendship. It was whispering like a hunted thing, desperate to be heard only by humans. Keller kept asking himself, why us? Why only humanity? The observatory was small, underfunded, almost forgotten by the world. And yet, somehow, the message had reached them. It was as if the voice had chosen Earth, chosen humans, and no one else. One night, as Keller sat alone, the signal changed. It no longer sounded broken. It spoke directly, words flowing with strange rhythm. The computers translated faster now, and on the screen appeared, they are listening everywhere. They believe no one hears them. But you hear. Humanity hears. Do not let them know you exist. Keller's hands shook. He felt the weight of something larger than himself. He looked outside at the stars, and for the first time, they felt alive. Watching. Waiting. He wanted to tell the world. He wanted to announce it. But if the message was true, if they were real, then speaking might be the most dangerous thing humanity could ever do. The team decided to keep the signal secret. For weeks they studied it, recording, decoding, and saving everything. Every night, the message grew longer, telling fragments of a story. A story of hunters, of shadows moving through galaxies, consuming every voice they heard. A story of civilizations that had spoken too loudly, and had vanished forever. The whispers from the stars were not just warnings. They were pleas. Someone, somewhere, had seen the hunters. And now they were hiding, using humanity as their last hope. But the signal was not perfect. It carried noise, like scratches, like something trying to break in. And sometimes, between the warnings, a second voice slipped through. That second voice did not sound desperate. It sounded cold. We hear you too. The first time that line appeared, Keller's heart nearly stopped. He deleted the record before the others saw it. He did not know why, but some instinct told him not to share. Not yet. The days turned into weeks. The team grew tired, nervous, afraid. Some wanted to destroy the machines. Some wanted to run. But Keller could not leave. Every night, he felt drawn to the signal, like a moth to flame. And then, one night, the whisper changed again. They have noticed movement. They search for the listener. You must hide the truth. You must not trust anyone. Humanity is the last ear left in the dark. Keller read the lines over and over, his chest tight. He realized something terrible. If the hunters were real, then the act of listening might already have doomed them. And outside, above the desert observatory, the stars seemed brighter, as if something unseen had turned its gaze toward Earth. The team sat in silence, waiting for the next whisper. But this time, the message was gone. The sky had gone quiet again. And that silence was worse than the whisper. The silence lasted for days. The observatory team checked the machines again and again, hoping the signal would return. But nothing came. The desert nights were quiet, only filled with the soft hum of the computers and the cold wind outside. Dr. Keller sat in front of the screens every night, staring at the empty lines of data. He felt like someone had been speaking directly to him, and now that voice had been taken away. It left a hole inside him, a heavy emptiness. Some of the team members felt relief. They believed it was over, that maybe it was just some strange signal from a star, nothing more. But Keller could not let go. He remembered every word. Do not let them hear you. Do not answer. Humanity is the last ear left in the dark. The warning played in his mind like a broken record. He wondered, if the whisperer had gone silent, had they been found? Had the hunters taken them? On the fifth night, something strange happened. The screens flickered. For a moment, lines of static ran across the monitors. The team rushed in, hoping the whisper was back. But instead of words, there was something else, a series of coordinates, numbers running endlessly. Keller wrote them down by hand. They were not random. They pointed to a place in space, far from Earth, near the edge of the galaxy. No one knew what was there. The whisperer was gone, yet something had left this trail behind. But there was another problem. Between the numbers, the static formed patterns. At first they looked meaningless, but Keller recognized them. It was the second voice. The cold one. The one that had said, "We hear you too." It was faint, almost hidden. But it was there. The hunters had noticed the whisper, and now, maybe, they had noticed Earth. The team grew afraid. Some wanted to send the data to governments, to space agencies, to anyone who could help. But Keller stopped them. If we speak too loudly, we invite them, he said. His voice was low, heavy with fear. They are listening for answers. That is how they find prey. For the first time, the team believed him. The next nights were filled with paranoia. Every signal, every sound from the machines felt dangerous. The desert air grew heavy, and even the stars above felt like eyes. Then, the whisper returned. It came suddenly, soft and broken, weaker than before. The computers struggled to translate, but words still appeared. I am still here. I am running. They are close. Humanity must stay quiet. You are the only ones left who can hear. The room filled with tension. The voice was alive. The whisperer had not been taken yet. But their fear was clear in every word. They were being hunted. Keller leaned forward, whispering as if the whisperer could hear him through the machine, though he never pressed the button to reply. Who are you? Why us? Why only humans? The answer came, slow and trembling, because you were not supposed to exist. They do not know you yet. You are hidden. You are new. If you speak, they will come. The words sent a chill through the room. Humanity had always dreamed of being discovered by greater civilizations. But now it seemed the greatest advantage Earth had was being invisible. Keller closed his eyes. Somewhere out there, civilizations older and stronger had spoken, and had been silenced. Humanity was not advanced, not powerful. But they were hidden. And that made them dangerous, if they could remain unseen. But the message grew darker. The whisperer spoke again, the words broken but clear enough. They know someone is listening. They search this part of the stars. If they find the signal, they will trace it. You must protect your world. Keller's heart raced. He understood what this meant. By listening too long, by catching the signal, Earth itself might now be at risk. One of the younger scientists panicked. We should shut it all down. Destroy everything. Stop listening before it's too late. But Keller shook his head. If we turn away, we lose the only warning we have. If we stay blind, they will still come. We need to know more. The room fell silent. Every person knew the truth. Humanity was caught between two dangers. If they listened, the hunters might find them. If they stopped, they would face the dark with no knowledge at all. That night, Keller stayed behind when the others left. He sat alone in the dim light of the monitors, the whisper still flowing across the screens. And then, without warning, a new line appeared. "They are looking at you now." Keller froze. His hand hovered over the power switch, but he could not move. He could feel it, deep inside, that the words were true. The hunters had noticed Earth. The Whisperer's last line came through, trembling and weak. "Hide. Hide before it is too late." And then the signal cut. The room was filled with silence again. But this silence was different. It was not empty. It was watching. Keller slowly looked toward the window. Above the desert, the stars burned cold and bright, and for the first time in his life, he wished the sky was dark. Because somewhere, in that endless sea of stars, something was staring back. The desert nights grew colder, but inside the observatory, no one slept. The team lived in fear, watching the machines, waiting for the whisper to return. But after that last warning, "Hide before it is too late," the signal was gone. Days passed with only silence. And in that silence, suspicion grew. Every creak of the old observatory, every flicker of the computers, every noise outside in the desert wind felt dangerous. The team began to whisper to each other in hushed voices, as if even their human words might be heard by something far away. Dr. Keller tried to stay calm, but he felt the same weight pressing on him. He had studied the stars his whole life, and now, for the first time, he was afraid to look at them. On the 7th day after the last signal, something changed. The machines picked up a pulse. Not a whisper, not a voice, but a heavy beat, like a drum echoing in the dark. It repeated, slow and steady. The scientists gathered around the screens. At first, they thought it was just interference, some natural event. But the pulse kept coming in a perfect rhythm. It was not random. It was a beacon. And it was not from the Whisperer. The computers struggled to translate, but soon, words appeared. "We found you." The message repeated over and over. "We found you. We found you. We found you." One of the younger scientists screamed. Another collapsed into a chair, whispering prayers under their breath. Keller stood frozen, his mind racing. The hunters had heard. They were calling out, not to ask, not to warn, but to announce. They knew. The team wanted to shut everything down. To destroy the computers, burn the wires, erase the data. But Keller stopped them. "If they already know, it doesn't matter if we hide the machines. The only question now is, how close are they?" That night, Keller stayed awake alone again. He stared at the sky, his hands trembling. He thought of Earth, 7 billion people who had no idea what was happening, living their lives under sky that might already be filled with death. At midnight, the Whisperer returned. The signal was faint, broken, full of static, as if it was being crushed under the hunter's beacon. But Keller saw the words forming, desperate and sharp. "You must run. You must bury your voice. They are coming. You have no time." Keller typed the words into his notes, but then another message cut through. It was not the Whisperer. "Run if you like. We are already here." The team gasped when the line appeared on the screen. For the first time, Keller felt certain the hunters were not just somewhere far in the galaxy. They were close. Close enough to aim their words directly at Earth. That night, the desert did not feel empty. Strange lights flickered on the horizon, silent and distant. At first the scientists thought it was just aircraft or satellites reflecting sunlight. But the lights did not move like planes. They hovered, then vanished, then appeared again, always closer. The younger scientists wanted to flee, but Keller forced them to stay. "If we run blindly, we know nothing. If we learn, even a little, maybe humanity has a chance." The whispers and the hunter's words began to overlap on the screens, as if two voices were fighting to control the signal. The Whisperer, "Stay silent. Stay hidden." The hunters, "Speak. Answer. Show yourself." It became a battle of voices, filling the observatory with chaos. The computers struggled, the screens flickering wildly. And then, for a brief moment, Keller saw something new. An image. Not just words this time, shapes, broken fragments of something visual. It was like a face, or maybe many faces, twisted and blurred. The image lasted less than a second, but it was enough to freeze the blood in Keller's veins. It was not human. The hunters had shown themselves, not fully, not clearly, but enough. Enough to prove they were real. Keller fell back in his chair, his breathing shallow. He realized what they were doing. The hunters were not asking Earth to speak. They were trying to break the silence with fear. They wanted humanity to scream. And if humanity screamed, if Earth sent a signal strong enough, the hunters would find them for sure. The team argued through the night. Some wanted to tell the world immediately, to warn governments and military forces. Others wanted to stay silent, to protect Earth with secrecy. The debate grew heated, voices rising, anger boiling. And then, in the middle of the shouting, every light in the observatory went out. The screens went dark. The power shut down. The machines fell silent. Only the stars remained, shining cold through the windows. The team rushed to restore power, their hands shaking. Keller lit a small lantern. And in the silence, before the systems came back online, they all heard it. Not through the speakers. Not through the machines. But in the air itself, faint and chilling, like a whisper carried by the desert wind. We are here. The words came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The team froze. No one dared to breathe. And then the lights came back. The machines flickered alive. The screens filled with static. But no signal came. Just silence. And for the first time, Keller understood, the hunters no longer needed the machines to speak. They were close enough to whisper directly into the air of Earth. The desert no longer felt safe. After that night, when the hunters' whisper was heard without the machines, the team lived in fear. They locked the observatory doors, covered the windows, and whispered among themselves like frightened children. But none of it mattered. If the hunters could reach them through the air, then no walls could protect them. Dr. Keller hardly slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the words again, "We are here." It was not just sound. It was presence. He could feel them, pressing against the edges of his mind, searching, probing, waiting for a mistake. The whisperer's voice had vanished completely. No more warnings. No more guidance. Keller wondered if the whisperer had finally been silenced, caught by the hunters. If so, humanity was alone now. On the third night after the blackout, something new happened. The screens came alive with numbers, thousands of numbers streaming too fast to read. The younger scientists panicked, thinking it was the hunters again. But Keller stared at the sequence and realized something. "It's not them," he whispered. "It's coordinates again. But not in space. These are Earth coordinates." The room went still. The numbers pointed to a place on Earth, far from the desert. A remote mountain range in another country, untouched by cities, away from noise. The team argued. Was it a trap? Were the hunters leading them into darkness? Or was it the whisperer, making one last attempt to help? Keller made the decision. If we stay here, we're already dead. If the whisperer sent this, it might be our only chance. 2 days later, under fake names and in secrecy, the team left the observatory. They carried only what they could hide, laptops, notebooks, portable drives. They destroyed the rest, burning the machines in the desert until nothing was left. The journey was long, and fear followed them. On the plane, Keller stared out the window at the stars, certain that something was watching. In the cities, they walked quietly, never speaking of the signal, afraid that even human technology might carry their words to listening ears. At last, they reached the mountains. Cold, sharp winds cut through the air, and the sky above was black and endless. With only rough maps and GPS, they searched for the coordinates. On the fourth night of searching, they found it. It was a cave, hidden among jagged rocks, deep enough that the stars above could barely be seen. Inside, they discovered something that none of them could explain. It was not natural. The walls of the cave were smooth, carved into patterns that glowed faintly with light. Symbols none of them recognized stretched across the stone, pulsing gently, as if alive. And in the center of the cave stood a black pillar, tall and silent, humming with a low vibration. The team stared in awe. Keller stepped forward slowly, his hand shaking as he reached toward the pillar. Before he touched it, the glow on the wall shifted, and words appeared, clear, simple words in English. "You are not alone." The team gasped. Keller's chest tightened. The whisperer had left something here, hidden on Earth, waiting for humanity to find. The words changed. "We hid this long ago." A warning. A key. "They cannot find it here." They searched the stars, but they do not search you. Keller fell to his knees, overcome. This was not just a message, it was proof that others had been here before. The Whisperer's people had walked Earth, or at least touched it, leaving behind this beacon. But the pillar pulsed again, and the words grew darker. They hunt us still. They grow closer to you. If they discover your voice, all is lost. Use what we leave. Stay hidden. Survive. The scientists worked for hours, examining the pillar, recording everything they saw. It was technology beyond human understanding. The pillar seemed alive, as if it had waited for this exact moment. But then, as they worked, Keller noticed something outside the cave. A light. It flickered in the distance, moving slowly across the mountains. At first he thought it was just a plane, or a hiker with a lantern. But the light did not move like either. It hovered, silent, sliding across the sky with unnatural stillness. Keller rushed back into the cave. They've found us. The pillar reacted instantly. The glow on the walls flared brighter, and new words appeared. They searched the mountains. You must not let them see. Choose silence, or they will end you. The team panicked. Some wanted to flee deeper into the cave. Others wanted to cover the entrance. Keller tried to steady his voice. The pillar is shielding us. That's why they haven't come directly. We must stay inside. But outside, the light multiplied. 1 became 2. Then 3. Silent shapes drifting across the night sky, moving like predators in water. The team huddled around the pillar, fear choking them. And then, for the first time, the pillar spoke. Not with text. Not with symbols. But with a voice, deep and echoing, as if it came from the cave walls themselves. They cannot see you if you are still. Do not speak. Do not move. Do not even think loudly. The voice faded into silence. And outside, the hunters' lights hovered over the cave entrance. For hours, the team sat in frozen silence, barely breathing, praying the hunters would pass. Keller's heart pounded so loudly he feared it would give them away. Finally, just before dawn, the lights faded into the horizon. The team exhaled, shaking with relief. But Keller knew the truth. This was only the beginning. The hunters were not blind. They were searching, and it was only a matter of time before they found humanity's hiding place. And when they did, Earth would no longer be a secret. The mountain cave became the team's prison and their only safety. After the hunters' lights drifted away, the scientists sat in silence, too shaken to move. They knew now the hunters were not far, and if they made one mistake, Earth's secret would be broken forever. The pillar in the center of the cave still glowed faintly, its low hum filling the air like a heartbeat. Dr. Keller stared at it for hours, trying to understand its purpose. The Whisperer had called it a warning, a key. But a key to what? The others began to lose patience. Supplies were running low. The cold nights were hard, and the fear pressed on them like a weight. We can't stay here forever, one of them whispered. We need to leave before they come back. Keller shook his head. If we leave now, we're blind. This pillar is the only thing keeping us hidden. It knows them. It understands how they hunt. Without it, we have nothing. As if in response, the pillar flared brighter. Words spread across the walls of the cave, sharp and clear. They move closer each day. They search for sound, for light, for thought. They end every voice they hear. But there is one way to remain unseen. One way to survive. The team gathered around, their eyes wide. The words shifted again. We leave this knowledge for those who come after. The hunters fear silence, but they fear one thing more. Reflection. Keller read the words again and again. Reflection. What does that mean? The pillar answered. If they hear themselves, they turn away. If their voice echoes back, they fear it is another hunter. They fear each other more than they fear prey. The room fell into stunned silence. For the first time, there was hope. One of the younger scientists leaned closer. So we can use their own voice against them. The pillar glowed as if in answer. Use it carefully. Use it only to hide. Never to call. If you call, they will know you live. Keller's mind raced. It was dangerous, but it was something. Humanity was not completely helpless. That night, while the others slept, Keller stayed awake beside the pillar. He whispered softly, not to the hunters, but to himself. Why us? Why did you trust humans? The pillar pulsed, and new words appeared. Because you are new. They do not know you yet. You are not marked. You are the last voice left unseen. Keller swallowed hard. The meaning was clear. Other civilizations had been wiped out. All that remained was humanity, hidden, small, fragile, and now holding the last secret. The next day, the hunters returned. The sky filled with their silent lights again, drifting over the mountains like shadows made of fire. This time, they were closer. The team huddled in fear as beams of pale light swept across the rocks outside the cave, scanning, searching. Then, without warning, a sharp sound cut through the cave. One of the scientists had dropped a metal canteen. The clang echoed loudly against the stone. Everyone froze. Outside, the lights stopped moving. They turned slowly, focusing on the mountainside where the cave was hidden. Keller's chest went cold. They were exposed. The pillar reacted instantly. The glow flared so bright it lit the cave walls like fire, and words appeared in great rushing lines. Do not move. Do not breathe. I will reflect for you. A deep hum filled the cave, vibrating through their bones. Outside, the hunters' lights began to pulse, sending out silent signals into the air. But then, those signals came back to them. Reflected, twisted, mirrored by the pillar. The hunters paused. For long, terrible minutes, the lights hovered above the cave. Then, slowly, they drifted away, as if confused, as if unwilling to risk their own trap. When the last light faded, the pillar dimmed again. The scientists collapsed, gasping, shaking with relief. They were alive only because the Whisperer's secret had worked. But Keller's relief was short-lived. He knew what this meant. The hunters were closing in. Each time they came, they searched deeper. Each time, they came closer. The pillar could protect them for now, but not forever. That night, as the team slept in exhaustion, Keller stood before the pillar again. His voice was low, almost a prayer. What do we do when they finally find us? The pillar's glow was faint, like fading embers. But the word still came, you must decide what you are. Pray, or something more. Keller frowned. What do you mean? The reply came slowly, each word heavy with meaning. If you stay silent, you may survive. But silence is not life. One day, you must choose to answer. And when you answer, you must be ready for war. Keller stood frozen. The thought was terrifying. Humanity was young, fragile, barely reaching the stars. But the Whisperer was right. They could not stay hidden forever. For now, survival meant silence. But the hunters would never stop searching. And one day, Earth would have to speak. Keller turned away, staring into the cold darkness of the cave. For the first time, he felt the weight of all humanity pressing on his shoulders. The choice was no longer about a small team of scientists. It was about the entire human race. And out there, in the endless sky, the hunters were still moving. Searching. Waiting. The cave no longer felt like a refuge. It felt like a grave waiting to close. Every night the hunters' lights drifted closer to the mountains, circling like predators who could smell fear. The team lived in silence, speaking only when needed, never raising their voices above a whisper. Even breathing felt dangerous. Dr. Keller carried the weight of their survival on his shoulders. The pillar still glowed, still gave warnings, but its words grew weaker. Sometimes it flickered, as if its strength was fading. Keller feared that one night, when the hunters came again, the pillar would no longer have the power to shield them. Food supplies were running low. Some of the team began to talk about leaving the mountains, hiding among cities where the hunters might not search. But Keller shook his head. If they can whisper into the air itself, no city will protect us. They'll follow. They'll listen. And billions will die. The truth silenced the group. On the fifth night, something strange happened. The pillar pulsed with a rhythm unlike before. The glow on the cave walls shifted into a map of stars. Slowly, the image zoomed until one corner of the galaxy came into focus. A mark appeared. A burning red circle. Keller stared at it. That's them, he whispered. The hunters. Then another mark appeared, far from the first, shining faint blue. "We are here," the words formed. Keller's chest tightened. It was the Whisperer. They weren't dead, not yet. Somehow, despite the hunters, they were still alive. More words followed. "We cannot last much longer. But you must know. They fear themselves. They do not trust each other. Use this. Divide them. It is the only path for your kind." Keller's hands trembled as he copied the words. The Whisperer was giving them not just a warning, but a strategy. A weakness. The pillar flared brighter, translating more. "We leave this knowledge for you. Our end is near. But yours is not written yet." And then, just as suddenly, the signal from the Whisperer collapsed. The map dimmed. The cave fell silent again. The team was shaken. If the Whisperer was truly near their end, then humanity's only guide was about to vanish forever. That night, the hunters returned. The sky filled with more lights than ever before. Not 2. Not 3. Dozens. Silent shapes drifting like a swarm of predators over the mountain range. The scientists huddled in terror. The pillar flared, but this time its words were slow, halting, weak. "They are many. I cannot reflect them all." Panic broke out. "We're finished," one of the scientists cried, tears streaming down their face. "It's over. They'll find us." Keller grabbed their shoulders. "No. Listen to me. The Whisperer gave us something. They don't trust each other. They fear their own voice." The words came out in a rush, as if spoken from instinct rather than thought. Keller turned to the laptops they had carried with them. With shaking hands, he searched through the recordings they had saved, the hunter's own signals, captured from the nights before. He found the sharp, cold words that had haunted him since the beginning. "We found you. We hear you." Keller looked at the pillar. "If you can reflect, can you carry this?" The pillar pulsed faintly, as if answering. Keller played the hunter's voice into the machine, feeding the cold, cruel signal back into the pillar. The glow surged, stronger than before, filling the cave with light. Outside, the hunter's lights froze. The reflected signal echoed into the night, carrying the hunter's own words back at them. For the first time, the swarm broke its perfect rhythm. The lights flickered, scattered, as if unsure. Keller's heart pounded. "It's working," he whispered. The pillar flared again, repeating the hunter's voice across the mountains, twisting it, multiplying it. To the hunters outside, it must have sounded like their own kind calling out from the shadows. And just as the Whisperer had said, they hesitated. The swarm broke apart. Half the lights pulled back, drifting into the sky. Others hovered, uncertain, moving in nervous patterns. For hours, the team sat frozen, watching the strange dance of the hunters' ships. And slowly, as dawn painted the sky, the swarm faded into the horizon. They were gone. For now. Inside the cave, the team collapsed, exhausted. Some wept with relief. But Keller remained standing, his eyes locked on the pillar. The words appeared once more. "You have done what we could not. You used their fear. But this victory is small. They will return, and in greater numbers. Hide while you can. Prepare while you can." Keller closed his eyes. Humanity had survived one night, one hunt. But he knew the truth. The hunters would not give up. And now, Earth was no longer just listening. Humanity had spoken back, even if only with a reflection. The silence was broken. And somewhere, out there in the endless dark, the hunters knew it. The mountain dawn was cold, but no one in the cave felt warmth. The team had survived the night, but survival no longer felt like safety. The hunters had come in force, and though the pillar's reflection had driven them away, Keller knew it was only temporary. The pillar still glowed faintly, but its hum was weaker than before, as though it had burned its strength in that desperate act. Keller pressed his palm against the stone. "How much time do we have?" he whispered. The glow flickered, then words appeared. "Not long. They will gather more. When they come again, they will not hesitate. They will burn the sky until nothing hides you." The scientists sat in silence. Some wanted to run back to the cities. Some wanted to bury the cave and pretend it never existed. But Keller stood tall, his face lined with exhaustion and resolve. "No," he said firmly. "Running means nothing. Hiding means nothing. If humanity is to survive, we cannot wait for them to destroy us. We must learn. We must prepare. The others stared at him, fear in their eyes. One whispered, "But we are nothing compared to them. We are only human." Keller's gaze hardened. "And that is exactly why we have a chance. They do not know us. They do not expect us. They think we are weak, but weakness is not the same as defeat." As if answering him, the pillar shone brighter for a final time. New words burned across the walls of the cave. "This is our last gift. We leave you what we could not finish. Memory. Knowledge. A seed of resistance." A deep rumble shook the ground, and the black surface of the pillar cracked. Light poured out, streams of symbols and patterns that rushed into the laptops, into every device the scientists carried. The machines filled with data far beyond human understanding, schematics, codes, instructions. One line of words formed on the wall: "We fall so you may rise. Do not waste this." Then the glow faded. The hum stopped. The pillar went silent forever. The cave was dark now, only lit by the faint screens of their computers. The Whisperer was gone. Humanity was alone again. But this time, they were not empty-handed. Keller felt the weight of the drives in his bag. The knowledge left behind was dangerous, maybe even impossible to use. But it was a chance. A seed. Outside, the sky was too quiet. The hunters had withdrawn, but Keller knew they were not gone. Somewhere above, hidden in the black, they were circling, waiting for the moment Earth spoke too loudly. The team began their journey down the mountains. Every step felt heavy with the burden they carried. When they reached the world below, they would have to decide who to trust. Governments, militaries, or no one at all. On the last night in the mountains, Keller stood alone beneath the stars. The cold air cut through his lungs, but he didn't care. He looked up at the endless dark where the hunters waited. "They think we are prey," he said softly. "But we are listeners. We learn. And one day, we will answer." For a moment, he thought he heard something in the wind. Not the hunters. Not the Whisperer. Something else, something that was not a voice, but a feeling. A promise. Humanity was not ready for war. Not yet. But silence could not last forever. The hunters believed they were eternal, unstoppable, the end of every voice. But now, for the first time, they had left a seed behind. A hidden enemy. Earth. The scientists descended the mountain with their secret. In the years to come, Keller knew, this knowledge would spread. Slowly, carefully, hidden beneath layers of silence, humanity would begin to prepare. The hunters would return in greater numbers. They would come to end the last ear that listened in the dark. But when that day came, they would not find helpless prey. They would find humanity waiting. And when humanity finally spoke, the stars themselves would hear a voice they had never expected. A voice that whispered back,